I think I'm having a problem, and chances are you're probably feeling it with me. So, my name is Nate, this is the Life with Nate YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about taking what I call a life sabbatical. And so, the problem that I'm facing right now is that I'm slowly realizing that I am getting burnt out from not just like working like a full-time job and stuff like that, or applying for jobs, which is what I'm also doing as well, or even creatively pursuing my hobbies. I think I'm just getting burnt out from just life itself. And I think a lot of people can empathize with that, especially with folks that are in their mid to late 20s, maybe like early 20s, 30s, maybe in that range. And that's the age range that I identify with the most because I'm, 28 years old, almost turning 30 fairly soon. Turning 29 like in January. So like I'll be 30 fairly soon. And so the problem that I'm facing is that I think I'm entering this like prolonged state of burnout, which is not good. You know what I mean? And like I'm doing fine. I'm not depressed. I'm not like we all have our ups and downs in life. I get that, and I'm pretty blessed to like have the life that I have here in Washington D.C. But at the same time, I feel like I'm just getting this like prolonged sense of burnout when it comes to just the whole regular routine of life. And I think I've talked about this a little bit on the YouTube channel before, with like the 9 to 5 traditional route versus like being a creative entrepreneur, if you like want to even go in that direction. But I'm saying more about just life in general. And so I think the problem that I'm facing right now is that I'm slowly realizing that I'm getting burnt out from just everything that I'm doing. And maybe it's because I'm doing too much in one time, like, working 40 hours a week, maybe 50 sometimes, applying for jobs, going to embassy events, filming YouTube videos, going to AI stuff as well. There's a lot that I'm doing in my day-to-day life, and I feel like I've had this like, it's hard to describe. It's like a feeling of burnout that just started, I think, like when I graduated grad school back in California, and then it's just grown successively over time because like when you look at like my professional career, if you want to call it that, it's always been like, apply for a job, get it, work it for like a year or two, move on, and vice versa. And a lot of you might say like, well, that's normal. Like, why would you not, why would you not be like, that's normal for like everyone, you know what I mean? And like at the same time it is, but human beings aren't designed to just be like working machines constantly. Like there's a reason why, like, for example, philosophers and creatives, like, in the old days, like back when you rewound history all the way to the Greek Empire, for example, there's a reason why people chose to become philosophers and creatives. And I think it's because like they explored different sides of life that people just respected, you know what I mean? Like exploring the philosophies of life, like being an artist, you know what I mean? And like exploring those different types where it's just hard to describe. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I'm also burnt out by like filming this YouTube video as well, but I think it's a sense of burnout that everyone experiences at one point, right? And then you want to just kind of run away from it all and like just leave everything behind and go to another country. Now I understand why digital nomads exist. And so the problem that I'm facing is that I'm feeling burnt out from life. And there's a point to this video. Like, I've talked to other people that are well beyond, my years with professional experience, and just like talking to people, and it's a common theme, I think, that like eventually after like, you are put through school, you work so many jobs, and like after a while you just get burnt out from just life in general and like everything that you do. And so the solution to this problem is that you need a break. And the break is what a lot of people refer to as the adult gap year. So it's a phenomenon that I've seen like on YouTube, and it's been growing like over time. I think the pandemic honestly just like threw everyone's mental health like down the drain. And like especially now because it's like an election year here in the US, the economy isn't doing too good. People are getting laid off. If you have a family, like that's even worse, you know what I mean, if you get laid off. So it's just like all these factors like are are just making like some people just want to take a break from just life in general. So, for example, when I was back in college, right, everyone that I knew did like a gap year. And that's something that I never did because I think growing up abroad internationally, you kind of look at people that take a gap year and they're like, oh, they're just enjoying themselves for like a year and they're just like, exploring creative options. They're traveling, they're backpacking throughout Asia. That was the typical thing. And then like when I was in college, it was always about like, go to school, graduate, get a job, like all that stuff. And I did study abroad like during summers and stuff like that. Like I did study abroad in Ireland, which was like super cool. I went to Dublin. I like studied euphemetra, which are like mayflies. And then I graduated, and then I saw other people in my class like also taking like, a year off because like they just didn't really know what they wanted to do with their lives, and like they just needed a break from like 4 years of intensive study because it's a STEM degree. So like for me, environmental science, like you're hitting the books and you're also working as a teaching assistant too. So when you have all of that combined for 4 years getting your bachelor's, it's only natural that you would feel burnt out, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into a full-time job because you got bills to pay and you can't live at home that whole time. So I saw like people in my like cohorts taking like 6 months, 3 months, like a full year off, and I was like, y'all are insane. Why would you do that? And then like fast forward literally almost 10, no, not 10 years, fast forward like 6 to 7 years, right? Because it's been a while since my college years. I'm not that old, thank God. But it's just like I realized that I had never done something like that, and that's something that I've always like wanted to do, like take like a full year off from like everything. And like maybe now that I've started doing YouTube and stuff like that, I've only been on the YouTube game for 8 months. I feel like it might be time, not like maybe in the next year or something like that. Like that's too soon, but like I feel like I want to do an adult gap year, or what I call like the life sabbatical. That's like a term that it's not my term necessarily. I've seen it like all over, but that's the concept that you should remember this by. And like I feel like for me personally, like taking a life sabbatical would be probably the best thing, because like I'm already burnt out already with like everything that I'm doing. But when I hit my mid-30s, I think or maybe even like when earlier, like 31, 32, I'm going to seriously consider, because I've been in DC for like 2 years already, which is like a long time by like my standards to stay in like one place. And like by the time I hit like 31, 32, it'll be like another 3 years, because I'm 28, turning 29 fairly soon. So like the idea of taking like a life sabbatical and for a year, just like we'll talk about solutions that you can implement like with a process that I've found like on YouTube and just other ways as well to like also help you if you're like thinking about doing the same thing. But taking just a year and like I don't have any I don't own anything, right? Like I used to have a car. I got rid of that because I don't need it here in DC. I don't have a house because you can't afford to buy one when you're 28, and I have some money saved up, but it's not a lot. So it's like, why not? You know what I mean? Like I don't have kids, I don't have a wife, I have family, but like they're spread out like all over the world. You know what I mean? So it's just like, why not take a life sabbatical for like a year and take a break from like worrying about your career, the paycheck, all that stuff, and just like focusing on not relaxing, but like when I talk about taking like a full year off, I'm talking about like taking a life sabbatical like with a purpose, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's just an example of like how that personally like came about with me. And like not taking a gap year after my college years, I think was like one of the biggest regrets of my life, because like that was before I had like real responsibilities. Like now it's like I'm entering almost the mid stage of my career. It's like early to mid in that area, and like things are a little bit more serious now because like DC has like a lot of potential in terms of like career finding that you have to invest a lot of time and energy into. So it's like stuff is starting to get more serious now. But like when I was like 20 something, 21, 22, no, hold up. 23, 24, I think, when I graduated college. And like no responsibilities, a free kid, that type of thing. And like I could have traveled like for a year And I think I would have learned far more about myself at that time than I do now. It took me like a lot of years to like grow up and stuff like that into the person that I am. And who knows, maybe personal development wise, it would have been easier. So in terms of like a life sabbatical, as an example, now you know. And then now the concept, the name, it's like a life sabbatical. Okay, so like how do you do that? So I have a couple of solutions that like I wrote down and I wanted to share with y'all just in case like y'all are thinking about the same thing. So for example, when you're taking a life sabbatical, you have to make sure that you're not like broke necessarily. Like you can take a life sabbatical, I think, like when you're low on money if you want to, but it's going to be a hell of a lot more stressful if you don't have anything saved up in the bank. So if you're taking a life sabbatical, and let's say like you're in DC like I am, like you're just tired of life, like you want to go to Indonesia for 3 months to volunteer, to save the sea turtles or something like that, make sure you have like at least a year's worth of savings in the bank. If at that 6 months, okay? Like I know it's hard to save money like with wages stagnating and stuff like that the way that they are. And like people get laid off like left and right nowadays. But if you're gonna try to take a life sabbatical, I think one of the solutions that I had like was to save six months worth of savings, 6 months to a year, just in case. And then the second thing is that if you have like furniture or a lot of like personal effects, put that into storage. Like you can rent out like a long-term storage unit, I think, for like, I don't know, it depends on where you live, but like let's say maybe 150 per month, right? And you just have that on like auto deposit so you don't lose your stuff and it doesn't get foreclosed by the bank. Keep your overhead low. So like, obviously if you're traveling, every couple of months and like you're renting out Airbnbs or you're staying at like co-living spaces like Selena as an example, you want your overhead to be low. So there are organizations, for example, out there that you can volunteer with that will take care of your room and board in exchange for, let's say, running their social media campaign or, I don't know, helping, like, functioning as staff at an ecotourism village. There are organizations like that. I did a quick search online and I was curious, like, do those types of things exist? And, like, I follow a couple of, like, I guess you want to call them travel influencers, you know what I mean? And, like, they suggested some, like, organizations like the World Backpacking Association or something like that, where you could do some seasonal work for 3 months and then you would, be in like not a fancy dwelling, but like you'd have a room and roof over your head. You'd have food, I think. That it depends. But stuff like that, like in exchange for doing something, you're not making anything either. Like that's a caveat out of all this, is that you're not making anything. So like if you're used to like a full-time 6-figure, 5-figure salary, that type of thing, with like a typical 9 to 5, during your gap year, in fact, you won't be making anything. Like in fact, you'll be spending money if you're if you're flying internationally, if you're going to like other states, if you're doing Peace Corps, for example, like you'll make 10 grand a year. Like that, my mentor, like here in DC, like does that, or used to do that like a while ago. And she was saying that she made like 10 grand a year, if at that, and that's before taxes, I think. So with this sabbatical that you're taking, you're not going to be making anything. So throw that out of the window. You know what I mean? Like that's why you need to have at least like 6 months to a year's worth of savings in your bank account that you can use if you have to, if at that, beyond just like traveling. So there's that. And again, putting your stuff in storage, keeping your overhead low, making sure that whatever path that you decide to go on, you don't just do for a month. You could do like three months to 6 months or whatever. And so like, what's the point of all this? That's like the final thing that I'll talk about in this video. What's the point of taking like, literally a life sabbatical, as they say? And I think from a personal perspective, I can say this, like the benefit would be to take a break from like the average day-to-day stuff that you do, and to make sure you rest. Like life is very intensive, like as anyone can say, and that's even more magnified with like, family that has problems, if you have kids, all that stuff. And like life is tough. Like it'll drag you down. Like, I've had my lows and I've had my highs, and I'm only 28, you know what I mean? But like, I feel like I've lived long enough to say that in some respects, you know what I mean? Especially to like men that are just like starting out in their 20s. So like taking a life sabbatical can sometimes be good because it's a reset for you. You know, you can explore, like, for example, if you want to make YouTube videos full time, 10 years ago, folks would have laughed at you. Like, that's not a career. Now you have people pumping out videos left and right. And like also with AI taking over YouTube now, you can make like videos like that. The only reason why I don't do that is because like I'm still learning how to make the best type of videos for my channel and like trying to find my voice. And like if I just, give you an AI like I don't know, podcast or something like that, like you're not going to want to tune into that. So when you're taking a life sabbatical, it helps you like reset life. And then at the same time, like maybe you can use that time to explore like creative passions. Like there's this guy that I found on YouTube called Chris Luno. He's like a really badass dude. He's like a DJ. And I found his YouTube channel when I was listening to like mixes when I was working. And I was like, this guy literally has spent the past 4 years being a DJ, traveling around the world. And just like literally his entire YouTube channel, I'll like link it in the description if you're curious. His entire YouTube channel is like literally setting up his, it's called a Pioneer DJ something board, and it's like a DJ mix board, and it's so cool because like he just sets up in these scenic places around the world. Like the last video that I saw was him like in the Dolomites, and I saw like a viral reel that was on the travel page, like literally Travel-y, I think it's called on Instagram, with like a Korean older couple that was like dancing to the DJ music when he was live streaming in the Dolomites. Like, dude, if you're taking a gap year to like do something like that, I know he's a DJ and I know that's his job, but like, can you imagine like how fun that would be? Or like you take a year, it's a period of self-discovery. You like, go full into YouTube. Try to you just go full into YouTube and you do your thing, like creatively exploring your hobbies, taking a rest from life, not worrying about climbing the corporate ladder. Like now I understand why people like they quit after working in corporate for like 8 years and they just want to take a sabbatical from life. And in some instances they start their own business or they just never go back. They just live in a part of the world that's like cheap enough to live on because they have literally, a year's worth of savings and stuff like that. So it's just something to think about. And so, again, my name is Nate. I talk about different things on this YouTube channel, from embassy events that I go to more philosophical stuff like this. I honestly make videos on what I find interesting. And in my life, it's a combination of like, AI policy and research, embassy events that I go to, and just like also topics like this. Like I've been thinking about taking a life sabbatical now for probably the past year, honestly. It's always been in the back of my head. And like this burnout that you feel on a daily basis. Yeah, it could be like, you're doing too much in your life. Yeah, you could be doing too much like on a weekly basis or whatever, dial it back, whatever. But I think just like learning to also step back and take, again, like I keep on saying it, but taking a life sabbatical from just life and just like resting for like a year. Human beings like aren't made to, despite what capitalism might tell you, human beings aren't meant to work for the rest of their damn lives. It's sick the way that like this whole system is set up, like all across the whole world. People spend the majority of their lives working and then they don't explore their creative hobbies because they have a family to take care of, they have kids, or they just are too damn tired. And I fully empathize with that. But anyway, that's Nate. That's not the Life with Nate YouTube channel. Talked about a life sabbatical. We started off with like the problem, which was like I'm feeling burnt out from life, and then an example of like me not taking a gap year during college, which is like very interesting. The concept, the name, it's like a life sabbatical type thing, you know what I mean? The process that you can like start to think about it, like again, have a year's worth of savings, at least I would recommend if you can, putting stuff into storage if you have furniture or whatever you want to keep, keeping your overhead low when you're like traveling around, and then finding like volunteer organizations to like, have a life sabbatical with a purpose. Because like for me, for example, I'm a type A personality, so I'm always doing something. So like if I'm doing a life sabbatical, I just want to use my time effectively. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be aimlessly backpacking for like 6 months. It's fun, but that's just not for me. So that's the process that I would talk about. And then again, we talked about the benefits. It's like kind of a reset from life. If you're sick of everyone and everything, like, you can meet really cool people. You can creatively explore your hobbies. I'm not saying you'll be the next Chris Luno in the Dolomites, like doing your DJ type of thing, but you can sure as heck have some very interesting stories. So, without further ado, that's the Life with Nate YouTube channel, and I will see you fairly soon. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.